Hi all, my name's Chris Cerroni, the Sporting Director for South Delta United, and I'll be speaking on development and winning with our parent workshop for 2025, focusing on development with individuals and pairing that with the team pursuit to compete and win a soccer game. To start, we'll be looking at some of the philosophies around development and winning, linking strategies for the U10 to U13 age groups, as well as the U14 to U18 age groups, have a final recap, and then share some next steps. What we have here is the dual mandate of development and winning. So we have the objectives that highlight individual development, and the focus there would be long-term growth, targeting technical, tactical mastery. So how do we help a player develop over time with the ball as well as understanding the game? And the outcome here would be priority for future potential. So by considering the individual, naturally we have players in different positions, different attributes, different desires in the game on where they want to get to. It really then breaks it down to say, how do we create an environment in the practice as well as the game, which we're going to focus on today, in creating that environment that helps the player develop. We naturally have to connect that with the team and how do the players come together to perform in the pursuit of winning. But what we don't want to do is target a short-term strategy that is detrimental to the long-term growth of individual players. But we have to be aware that the game is there to compete as well as to win, and it's the strategies we put in place to make sure that we cover the pursuit of development and the pursuit of winning as best as possible at the right ages. Here the chart shows age group priorities in youth soccer development. It's categorized into 3 age groups: U6 to U9, U10 to U13, and U14 to U18. Now this is generalized, but ultimately the introduction age groups are targeting fun to make sure the kids enjoy the game of soccer, and there's some development so that they can improve how they play to be more successful. When we get to the U10 to U13 age group, competition is included from a team aspect. So there is larger game formats, means more players on the field. The structure of competition in BC means that these teams will play teams outside of the club as well. So there is an element of competition being added into this age bracket. We then move into the U14 to U18 age groups. They play the 11v11 game format. So development is always a focus for the youth. There's the competition component, and then there's also the pursuit of how does the team win the game, more so looking at that U17, U18 age group. To just highlight the term competition, whenever a player has the ball, they become the attacker. Whenever a player is on the opponent's team and are closest to that attacker, they're the defender. So there is always competition regardless of the pursuit to win or score the most goals, because ultimately there is a 1v1 duel or battle taking place all over the field, with players having the ball and needing to dribble past their defender, and their defender trying to tackle that player to win the ball. So just really wanted to make it clear that competition is always there in the 1v1 situation, and then naturally that's magnified when you put it into a team aspect with more players on the field. So we're going to focus on the U10 to U13 age group and the U14 to U18 age group. The learn to train age here has 5 areas that we're targeting for consideration. One is set individual learning goals for each game. 2, emphasize learning moments over outcome. 3, rotate positions to build all-round understanding. 4, coach through guided questions and reflection. And 5, celebrate process-driven successes. Starting with number 1, set individual learning goals for each game. So an example here is giving a player a target to attempt 5 positive first touches or find space after passing the ball. So what this does here is, even though as a team and a collective we're pursuing to win the game, we can also give our individual players opportunity to win against their development. So over time, the more wins a player gets within the game individually, they are naturally going to improve as a player. So we can set the tasks harder against their development levels, and that can be built into the game environment, while as a team we're still trying to win the game as a collective. Strategy number 2, emphasize learning moments over outcome. So here is an example of encourage players, if they're in a 1v1 situation, to try and dribble past their defender. They may be successful, they may not, but we're highlighting the process in making the right decision and then working on their technical execution with that dribbling concept. Or another example, as more of a collective, would be the back 4 defenders and goalkeeper trying to play out of the back and experience more passing opportunities, more time on the ball, rather than potentially just kicking the ball long and relieving pressure without them experiencing certain environments to help their development. For strategy number 3, many of you will be familiar with this in rotating players to experience different positions. We do this at the very young ages, but it can also be encouraged to be done at the U10 to U13 ages and even older within youth development. Examples would be a defender who is very good in defending and stopping players getting past them with the ball. So you might put that player into midfield to encourage them to get more experience on the ball with their dribbling or passing opportunities higher up the field. Strategy number 4 talks about coaching through guided questions and reflections. So this is an approach with how you might interact and engage with your players. Typically we do this more in practice, but I would really encourage you to engage with your players as much as possible in games as well. There's a time to do it and a time not to do it, so it's finding that sweet spot to get the attention of the player, or do it at half time or after the game. But the approach would be asking questions so that players are self-assessing and thought-provoking on what they've done well and what they might be able to do better at with their performance during the game, as well as considering it after the game as well. Strategy number 5 highlights celebrating process-driven success. So making the language we use as a coach of winning include execution of team principles, not just goals and final scores. So we could ask our players, and as a team and a group, to have different metrics of success. For example, improved spacing, better decision making, or teamwork. And we could put some parameters in place to try and measure against that and see if the players are successful, regardless of what the score and result looks like. In moving into the age groups of U14 to U18, this covers the LTPD stage, train to compete and to win. And here's 6 examples of what we could try and consider during the game to help balance that development and winning approach within the game experience for the players. These include define the development philosophy early, periodize the season to balance both, game day strategy, coach to compete, not just to win, embed individual development within team play, foster a competitive but supportive environment, communicate dual objectives clearly. For strategy number 1, we're going to define the development philosophy early. So really highlighting that winning is a byproduct of development done well is one example that could be our mantra to help get this message across to the players and the team. And to achieve some of this, it's important to establish player expectations that development comes first and performance follows, communicate this clearly with the players and the parents. And then with support from the club, there's the player profile, and we can help create individual development plans for the players for their experience in the games, as previously mentioned, with the younger ages, in highlighting areas that players can get a win in their own development within their own role within the team that contributes to the collective pursuit to develop as well as then perform to compete and win. What strategy number 2 highlights is by periodizing the season to include that balance of development and competition with the winning aspect, is potentially you could focus more on the technical development of the players at the start of the season, and then start to layer in more of the game concepts and the game model in how your team will look to play in the 11v11 competition. What I will highlight here is the club are looking to provide more support with game modelling, and what game modelling highlights is really some strategies to help the players individually, in a group and as a team when they're attacking and defending in various areas of the field. So by layering this approach in, you could highlight that you're focusing on development of the individual players as well as balancing their understanding and tactical implementation of the game model, which will help them win the game ultimately as part of the process. For strategy number 3, we've highlighted this in various ways, but again, this is just reinforcing that on the game day, coach to compete, not just to win. So again, this considers the pursuit on how the team acquire the win with the performance and changing and controlling some of the metrics that could be highlighted as success. For example, here it says, did we implement our press? Did our wide players create 1v1s? Again, the team could achieve that, which is a positive in the long-term development of the players, but that may not have a direct impact on what the result looks like from a scoreboard perspective. And it also highlights that you can use game-specific roles to challenge the individuals. You can coach during the game to focus on teachable moments and prioritize development minutes so that players get to play in various positions and everyone gets the opportunity to experience the game. Strategy 4 draws attention to embedding individual development within team play, which has been a theme of what we've spoken to. But at that higher level, that 11v11 game format, the positions that players have are really more detailed in what they do in various areas of the field. And so this is trying to draw attention to how do you maintain the team play, but also highlight individual development and targeting specific components of that position that a player will need to know to help them perform, that helps with the performance as a team to acquire the win, but also helps in development. A good example here, which is something that really isn't used enough, is midfielders learning their timing of a third man run, which means the player in a 3-player sequence who doesn't touch the ball is the one running in behind to receive the final pass. How can you work with your midfielders to achieve that, which will be individual development, but also help with how the team plays within their game model? It's very important to foster a competitive but supportive environment. We want the players to compete when they have the ball and when they don't. We can encourage this in practice. It has to happen in the game environment. But what we can do is replicate this within practice by creating challenges within the team that are competitive of nature, but also build the supportive and team connectivity within the group of players. So for an example, develop a culture of self-reflection and peer feedback can be an approach that you've set up your session, there's competition, it's in place within the players, and then you can provide feedback and also highlight to the players on their own reflection on what they did well, what they could improve upon, and connect that to their individual growth, but also what the team goals are and that pursuit of winning when it comes to the 11v11 game on Saturday or Sunday. Finally, strategy number 6 is about the art of communicating the dual objectives clearly. So speaking in both languages, we're here to improve and to compete. So for the teenage age groups, that 11v11 game format, we don't want to get lost that it's all about winning. We want to make sure that we are emphasizing and supporting and preparing our players to compete, and making sure that we're creating that environment to help them develop. So post-game and training reviews should always include: what did we learn? How did we apply our principles? What do we need to improve as individuals and as a team? And if a coach can ask that of the group, then that will connect the group with the theme of what we're focusing on, as well as hopefully encourage some self-reflection as the players become older on how they performed, what they could do better, taking ownership of their performance. So in recapping, we're sharing that dual mandate of balancing development and winning within that youth environment, targeting the U10 to U13 age group and the U14 to U18 age group. And with some reflection, the objective is: how do we help the individuals develop with a long-term focus on their technical, tactical understanding and delivery of the game, and making sure that we don't lose that focus of an outcome that ideally we want the players to become better without sacrificing their development for the pursuit of winning, noting that another objective within the game of soccer is it is a team game. The performance potentially will reflect if the team win or lose, and we want to make sure that there is an importance to that, but that is not prioritized over the long-term approach of the individuals and the collective to help them become better. And that pursuit of winning really is something that is focused as the players get to that U17 and U18 age group as more of a focal point. And within those younger ages, we're still encouraging players to compete to win, but we really want to make sure they become better players overall. We've shared some strategies that can be implemented in the game environments. What we're sharing here as a final piece and some next steps takeaways is 4 areas that just can really be considered when a coach is working with their players. And it starts with individual development plans. Can we try and give our players individual plans? They don't have to be super detailed, but if we're able to, task some players with some challenges, they can either be weekly, monthly, or just at the start of the season, so that it's reoccurring within their gameplay as a task to say, look, when you have the ball, can you target 1, 2, and 3 as a challenge? When you don't have the ball defending, can you target 1, 2, 3 items to test yourselves as an individual? And we can track that to see how you're improving over time. That's related to the game model and team principles. And as mentioned, the club will be sharing more information around what game modelling looks like for the younger age groups, as well as the players and teams that play in the 11v11 game format. But what the player does individually has to be connected with the team principles, and we can try and then create goals around how the team play when they have the ball, when they don't have the ball, and where they have it and don't have it in certain areas of the field. And we can put some measurements in place to see if players and teams are successful or not, regardless of what the result looks like. The third component is redefine what a win means. And this is related to the previous 2 on creating metrics and success markers that we can pit ourselves against as coaches and players, so that we can see what a win could be for an individual player that is tasked with making X amount of tackles during a game, for example, or a player looking to play more forward passes and more successful passes into teammates in more dangerous positions on the field to score. So really highlighting that, yes, there's a score and we want to score more goals and win the game, but what other areas can we target as a win for our individuals as well as our team? And then lastly, focus on the process over the outcome. So it really talks about, can we recreate and replicate our behaviors and habits so that over a long-term approach, success will naturally happen because we are working at higher levels consistently. And that means that the players will perform well, and 9 times out of 10, a win will be associated with that. As always, really appreciate your time in observing these videos. What we wanted to do here was share information around development and winning and position it for the coaches so that we highlight what we're trying to draw attention to with the focus when the players are at certain ages playing in the game environment. So hopefully it was beneficial for parents to see the philosophy that we're trying to work with and encourage with balancing out development of individual players within that team environment and the performance, competition and the pursuit to win. If you do have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at chris@southdeltaunited.com. Thanks very much.